I might be having my best day of the week, by the way. Good morning. Welcome in. Happy Thursday as we take you towards the weekend on KCMO Talk Radio. Number one, I found my wedding ring. Woo! Let's go.
You just flashed a gang symbol.
Yeah.
Showing me the ring.
I did just flash John and Mark a gang symbol.
How appropriate that Beyonce was on. You're a survivor.
Yes, I survived. You're right about that.
Got to put a ring on it.
Yep. You guys are good right out of the gates. Yes, I will tell you where I found it next hour. But it's on my hand, and I'm a happy man. So we're back in the saddle here, baby. Let's go. Welcome in. Thanks for joining us on KCMO. I'm also pretty fired up to start the show because I was right, and I teased this yesterday that this was possible right out of the gates, and here we are 24 hours later with the Royals announcing that they will not have an announcement for us. It was a announcement, non-announcement, that they will not have an announcement for us on where their future is going to be by the end of this month. We literally started the show with this yesterday, and I said, I don't know if the Royals are going to have everything lined up to decide where they want to play baseball by the end of next week, And John and we talked about it here. We said, well, maybe, they'll go into the first week of October. The season ends on Sunday, October 1st. Maybe they'll have till Tuesday, October 3rd. That's the deadline that we gave them. Well, now, literally after the show ended yesterday, they come out with a statement saying that, we're going to need a little more time. So the Royals yesterday put out this statement. It was a long statement, but I'll just read you the highlights. They say here, although we will not have a site selected by the end of this month, we are more confident than ever that a world-class ballpark and surrounding district for entertainment, retail, and housing will build our region's momentum, serve our citizens well, and further establish Kansas City as a top-tier destination for tourists. Leaders in both Jackson and Clay County know that we and the Chiefs need clarity on our stadium plans in time for the public to be fully informed for a vote in April of 2024. We take our responsibilities very seriously to act in the best interests of both the Royals and our region, and we will continue our work to make sure this project is done right. So what I believe came out of this over the last couple of weeks is that the Royals realized that there is a lot more I's to dot and T's to cross than maybe they realized, especially if they want to leave Jackson County. If they want to leave Jackson County, they still have a lease at the Truman Sports Complex that runs through 2031. So if that's going to be the case, then what are they going to do about that if they want to go to Clay County and say 2028? You think Jackson County is going to let them walk out of that lease? Remember, Jackson County announced a couple of weeks ago it had just spent six figures on an attorney to basically handle whatever's going on with the Kansas City Royals and the future of both teams. The attorney is going to look at the contract and say, if you guys want to leave for Clay County, that's great, but you're still going to owe us money. That's just how this has to work. We're not going to let you walk out of your lease because we're good guys. Right? You promised Jackson County voters who gave you hundreds of millions of dollars back in 2006 that you were staying through 2031. If you want to bail early, that's going to cost you. And for some reason, we've kind of talked about it on the show. I wonder if that's part of the delay here. That maybe helps Clay County, but makes the Royals realize, gosh, what are we going to do about this lease? And then the other part of it is, even if they stay in Jackson County and they want to leave, well, what does that mean? Are you extending 3/8 of a cent on the sales tax? How much money does that raise over the next 25, 30, 35 years, whatever the number is? There still are so many questions here that have to be answered. And as I understand it, well, I'm trying to share what I can share here. As I understand it, there has been a lot of miscommunication between the Royals and both counties. Without getting into the details, which I have been asked not to share at this point, there's been a lot of miscommunication between the Royals and both counties. As in, nobody's feeling satisfied right now. And as this thing goes down to the wire, there's a lot of concern on both sides of the county line that the Royals are now trying to pit these two counties against each other as we go down the home stretch. But what it feels like in part is going on is that the Royals are like my toddlers who sometimes put on their pants before their underwear. Like, that's what it feels like what they've done here. They got all the pretty renderings, the ooh, ah, wee, whoa. They did all that. But then the nuts and bolts of like, well, if we want to go up north, how do we get out of the contract? What does that mean for our lease out at Truman Sports Complex? Oh, they're not just going to let us walk out of this thing? Oh, we might have to pay the lease through 2031 in another county, even if we want to have a ballpark in a different county by 2028 or whatever it is. It's like some of these things that we've been asking about for months that we've been told, just wait, we'll have an announcement, it'll be fine. It's like maybe suddenly all those questions came up and they're like, oh, we're not ready to announce where we're going to be by the end of this month. And there might be people at the Royals listening to this and saying, you don't know what you're talking about. Okay, well, I just kind of piece things together from different people in the region who are involved. And I might be way off on this. There's an easy way to fix that. Be transparent. Be transparent with the taxpayers in both counties, one of which you're about to ask for hundreds of millions of dollars over potentially 40 years. So there's an easy fix here. And it's on the Royals to fix it if they want to. They just haven't shown a willingness to be as transparent as they claim they're being. Now, who's winning right now? North KC versus KC Mo? I mean, the extension that the Royals are requesting, the extension that the Royals are saying yesterday, we're not going to have an announcement on a new ballpark by the end of the month, to me, that helps Clay County. Because I'm thinking, okay, if they're serious about this move up north, then they do have to figure out how to get out of the deal with Jackson County and what that looks like. Of those two options, an extension that the Royals want to have, that helps North Kansas City, as far as I can tell. But I did notice last week that when Quentin Lucas was on the show, he was a bit more confident about the Royals, and he had a little more pep in his step about the Royals than he did, let's say, even a month or 6 weeks ago when I asked him about the meeting he had last week with Frank White and John Sherman.
Look, I always feel good about the Royals staying and playing in the city of Kansas City, Missouri. By the way, as we all know, Kansas City is in 4 counties. I love each and every one of them the same, including the few people who live in Cass County's portion of Kansas City. What we had a conversation about is, I think what has always made sense. The city of Kansas City and Jackson County and Kansas City Royals have had a strong relationship since, at least for Jackson County, 1969. The city of Kansas City helped be a key part in actually getting the Royals back here just to Kansas City in its existence, actually, or getting the Royals here. They were an expansion franchise. And so what I would say is that, I always feel good about what the odds are, but we will continue to be responsible in terms of what we're looking to do with taxpayer money, if that is a part of what this all looks like. I have to appreciate the Royals. And one thing that I've said on this show and I've said elsewhere, I don't do big public battles about things that are going to be important. The people of Kansas City don't want me to get into an arms race. I think that starts to, be something that isn't in the taxpayer's best interest very quickly.
That was Quentin Lucas last week on the show, and you could just hear it in his voice. There was a little more confidence in what he was saying about the Royals and their future. And whether that's because he feels good about them staying in Jackson because they want to stay in Jackson, or if it's because he knows he's got some legal leverage over the Royals and he's going to start pursuing that legal leverage. He's no dummy. Either way, he just sounded like a guy who was more confident on where this team was going to be playing moving forward. But now we wait, and we wait, and we wait, and we wait.
Back in the 30s, they used to have organ music that goes with the announcers when he says, and what about the Chiefs?
Yes.
Right? They factor into the whole lease thing.
And they do. And you know what? I think deep down the Chiefs want the Royals in Clay County so they can take the full 3/8 of a cent and use it for whatever they want to do out there. I think I think the Chiefs want the Royals far away, like outside the county line. Because right now the Chiefs could ask for whatever they want. They could ask for a 2-penny sales tax Literally, hey, can I get a nickel sales tax out of you guys on every purchase in this county? Everyone would say, yeah, sure. Yeah, whatever you guys need, let us know. So I think deep down, they do, yes, John, want the Royals out. And that plays a factor here. Because the Chiefs, they want to get moving on something. You can tell. 913-408-7710. 6:15, welcome in on a Thursday morning on KCMO. Quentin Lucas won't be here this morning. He's in a conference today. So Jerry Nolte, Clay County Commissioner, is going to join us. We'll talk about this Royals deal. We also have those Guns N' Roses tickets at 7:10 this morning. It's this Saturday at Kauffman Stadium, a text-to-win contest less than 1 hour away. Next, you heard John mention in the news, UAW strike is now impacting the Fairfax GM plant here locally. And I tell you what, one of the TV stations interviewed a guy out there, and it made me want to bang my head against the wall. I'll play those clips next. Everybody's going to come out a loser here, especially at the bottom end as this UAW strike continues on, and now it is impacting the Kansas City area. The Fairfax GM plant has ceased operations. That's 2,000 workers here, 2,000 of our neighbors right here in the Kansas City area, of course on the Kansas side of the state line, have ceased operations until further notice. Why is that? Well, because one of the first plants to strike in this UAW back and forth between the union and the big three Detroit automakers was a Wentzville, Missouri plant over on the St. Louis side of the state. And as a result, that impacts this plant, the Fairfax GM plant here in town, and now they don't have anything to do. They got nothing. There's nothing for them to do, so they got no parts, and now they're all going home. So 2,000 people now are impacted by this, and by the way, they are not eligible for company-provided subpay. So this is due to a shortage of critical stampings. This is per the statement from the Fairfax plant. Due to a shortage of critical stamping supplied by the Wentzville stamping operations to Fairfax. The team members at Fairfax are not expected to return until the situation has been resolved. Now, the Fairfax plant here in town assembles the Chevy Malibu and the Cadillac XT4. And we told you, and this was well known, that this was entirely possible, that the Fairfax GM plant here could end up being impacted and shut down because the Wentzville plant was part of the supply chain. And the Wentzville plant shutting down was going to mean at some point that the Fairfax plant was going to have to be impacted. It just happened faster maybe than some people expected. So now you got this plant here in town that's shut down, right? We know that the UAW is asking for 36% pay raises. They're asking for 32-hour work weeks. They want to go back in some cases to the pension systems they had before the Great Recession 15 years ago now. There's a lot that's being thrown out there, a lot of big asks on the table. And you hear from people who I believe are innocent bystanders in this whole thing. You know, the run-of-the-mill average Joe union worker. And there was one of these individuals that Fox 4 talked to yesterday. His name is Brandon Crabtree. And I'm listening to Brandon Crabtree on Fox 4 yesterday, and I'm wanting to bang my head against the wall. Because it's guys like this who I believe is a hardworking man. He's a father, as the article notes. He wants to do right by his family, but he's buying the propaganda from his own union, hook, line, and sinker, and now he's sitting out of work with no money coming in.
So I don't understand why you would not want to take care of the people that make the cars and all the billions of dollars they make is because of us, because of the time and hours we've put in. Why not take care of who is making you record profits? It just don't make sense to me why you wouldn't.
Well, who says they're not? And by the way, if Brandon Crabtree feels like he's not being compensated appropriately at the GM Fairfax plant, I mean, in this economy, I guarantee you his skill sets would translate to many other parts of the automaking industry, whether it's on the mechanic side or anything else. I mean, I imagine he's got some skills working at the Fairfax plant for a couple of decades now, as the article notes on Fox 4. But to do the whole thing of, oh, boy, they got to take care of their people. I can't believe they don't want to take care of their people. Well, who says they're not? And by the way, there is a 20% pay raise on the table from GM. 20% pay raise is right now on the table from, by the way, all three of the big three Detroit automakers. They're all in that 20% range right now. But this whole you got to take care of the people. They can't make these cars without us. Well, that's true. And that's also what people said at McDonald's when they were screaming for $15 an hour. And now you walk into a McDonald's, and if there's two people in there, that's a big deal. It's like, whoa, there's two of them. Wow. Can't believe it. Oh, my goodness.
Talk about a bombshell.
So it's not that simple. And these kind of emotionally driven things of, well, just take care of your people. Well, yes, they do need to take care of their people. They should take care of their people. That's the right way, obviously, to run any business, to take care of your people. But what does that mean? Does that mean you just get to ask for whatever you want and demand whatever you want and stomp your foot and say, I want to be paid a 40% increase. I want 32-hour work weeks. It's like, okay, well, we can't run the business then. Well, damn it, you better take care of me. The business has to run first and foremost. If the business is not profitable, if the business cannot operate, then there is no business and there are no jobs. And then you know what's a lot worse than not getting a 40% pay raise? Not having that job. But this is like the classic emotional side of this that people buy into. And it's nothing but propaganda. That's all it is. I mean, I respect the guy, and I think that he wants to do right by himself and his family. And sure, he wants a little more money in this climate, in this environment. I'd also be curious who he voted for the last couple of elections, but I think I know the answer there in terms of why his dollar doesn't go as far as it used to. But man, I mean, I want to, and I do, I genuinely do have sympathy for who now, for people who are now out of work at the Fairfax plant. But I'm also banging my head against the wall saying, guys, can I get you to listen to this show for 5 minutes? Can you understand how businesses need to operate? And by the way, the amount of investment they have to put back in to R&D, research and development, to stay competitive. That can't be overlooked. What would you say to Mr. Brandon Crabtree, who you just heard from there? 913-408-7710. Pete Mundo on a Thursday morning. News is 1 minute away. And we do have those Guns N' Roses tickets to give away for Saturday at Kauffman Stadium right after 7 o'clock. Well, I should add this to the conversation, too. Now that one of our local plants, the GM Fairfax plant, is shut down because they've got nothing to do because the Wentzville, Missouri plant is closed. And there's nowhere for them to go. There's literally no jobs for them right now. So this strike, this UAW strike, is having a major impact now on our region. That's 2,000 workers out there. No impact for the Ford Clay Como plant as of today, but there certainly are issues that need to be addressed. Now, the GM president wrote a letter in the Detroit Free Press, and there's a lot of great data in here that I will share on social media. But here's one thing that really stood out to me. So everyone's screaming about the record profits, right? Brandon Crabtree talked to Fox 4. He's just a worker at the GM Fairfax plant, and he said this yesterday.
I'm ready. I've been ready because I just think, we gave a lot up, and I think it's time that we get it back. It's been long enough.
All right, and everyone's screaming about the billions of dollars in profits and everything else. So in 2022, GM had net income profits of $9.9 billion. In 2023, their capital spending will be $11 to $12 billion. That's putting it back into research and development, oftentimes for electric vehicles, because they're being forced in that direction, by the way, by this administration. Over the past 10 years, General Motors' net income totaled $65 billion. The amount that they invested over that same period? $77 billion. That's investments, as the president notes, for their EV future, facilities in Detroit, other parts of Michigan, Toledo, Ohio, Rochester, New York, combustion products in Flint, Michigan, Fort Wayne, Indiana, Arlington, Texas. So, the billions and billions. Yep. And to stay competitive in a global economy, you've got to dump a lot of that back in. And the GM president putting the numbers out there on what they're actually doing. So those are the kinds of things that need to be noted here. Not just screaming about, take care of the people, damn it. Come on now, take care of the people. Ken's in Kansas City. Hi, Ken. Good morning.
Yeah. Hey, Pete. How you doing?
I'm well. Ken, what's going on?
So, the number keeps getting thrown around about 2,000 workers, and I just want people to be aware the impact is higher than that, Pete. I myself work for a Tier 1 supplier to General Motors. There's the auto industry in Kansas City extends well beyond the GM and the Ford plants. There are suppliers. You think about it, all the interiors. We got plastic interiors, consoles, dashboards, seats, metal fabrications that all go into the production of these vehicles. And many, many of these companies are local. My plant's shut down right now. You can add another 400 workers to that total. Plus,
you're not working right now.
I myself am,
okay.
Just because there's a little bit of office stuff left to do. I'm in the office, but our production workers, though, they're out. They're out of work right now,
and they're not getting paid, obviously.
No, they'll have to do unemployment. And how widespread this is with other suppliers in the area. I'm sure there's other ones that have had to have layoffs too. So the impact on the workforce is not just localized to the plant itself. It extends to the suppliers that supply the parts to the plant, because if they don't have a customer to supply to, they're not going to manufacture.
Mm-hmm.
So that 2,000 number, that you need to. I don't know what the number would be, but it's more than that. The impact is much more than that.
Because you're saying where you work, you've got 400 guys right now who are not working because of this strike.
Give or take a handful, yeah.
And what's, just out of curiosity, it's anecdotal, but what's kind of been their reaction to all this?
They're not real happy about it, obviously. Our company's passing out flyers and letters on what workers need to do to apply for unemployment, to try to get, government aid if they need it for food stamps. And I mean, it's pretty sad when we're in the position of trying to say, hey, here's some social work kind of programs and things in the interim, because they're just laid off. They don't have any work to do. So
Jeez.
they're not happy about it either. Of course, some of them support the UAW and they're yeah, let's go. But the reality is that this is not sustainable for the workers. It's not sustainable for the GM workers, for the supplier workers, for any of them.
Yeah,
it's just not.
Hey.
One thing about the GM workers that concerns me, that I think Sean Fain did a disservice to them, is had they went ahead and went on strike, they would get their strike pay. But now those workers that live on the Missouri side, they're going to get $320 a week in unemployment. They're going to get less than if they'd have gone on strike.
Oh, that's interesting. I hadn't thought about that, because technically they're out of work not by their own doing, so they wouldn't get they wouldn't qualify for strike pay. They would just get unemployment.
Correct. And in Missouri, it's still $320 a week cap before taxes.
Yeah. Hey,
taxed off too.
Thank you for that, Ken. I hadn't thought about that part of it. That's a great call. Okay.
Yeah, Fairfax isn't on the Kansas side, though.
Yes, right. But he's saying if you live in the Missouri side, because you live on Missouri, so you'd still be that unemployment. You'd qualify for that unemployment because that's where you live. Okay.
I understand.
Yeah, so that's, geez. So now Sean Fain is impacting UAW workers who did not strike, but they are not qualifying for strike pay, which, by the way, if you're Sean Fain and you want to have this thing drag on as long as possible, he's the UAW president, and you want to make sure that strike fund stays nice and plump, well, you'd have some of these folks who work at these various plants who are now getting shut down and now getting pushed out of work, well, just have them go to the government. You don't even have to open up the strike fund. Huh. That's tricky. I don't want to say that was part of his plan here, but I don't trust that guy as far as I could throw him. Victor in Parkville. Hey, Vic, you're on KCMO. What's up?
Good morning, Pete. You know, you've brought up a lot of really good points over the last week or so, and one of them was about they're talking about the CEO's salary. And, you know, you made the point, and you're absolutely correct. You know, the CEO's job is to guarantee that the company is profitable and to secure their employment. Okay. Now, the UAW as a bloc vote Democrat. So to you auto workers, you're responsible for the 20% inflation overall since Biden took office, which is why your paycheck isn't going as far. And you voted for economic suicide across America as a whole, specifically in the auto industry, because the liberal Democratic policies that are forcing carbon and fuel economic mandates on your industry. Electric vehicles are going to kill your industry. They're not profitable nor sustainable, and there's not enough raw materials for the inefficient technologies that are available today. Now, the 22-hour work week, okay, one, that's not enough to maintain production. And two, I know a guy who works, and I've known several people who work in the auto industry, and they actually count or used to count on the overtime to make the big paychecks. So that's where they make their big bucks anyway. So, you know, UAW guys, you elected the Democratic politicians who are causing your own demise. You've kind of created your own bed, so now you got to sleep in it.
Well said, Victor. And now what they're also going to want is they're going to want, the government, I think, to secretly get involved here and potentially bail this whole thing out in some capacity.
I agree, and that's another reason why 2024 is a very, very important election, and we need to get government out of the auto industry and stop forcing these mandates down the auto industry's throats, and so that they can get back to actually doing what they do best, make cars.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. Like, if you're a UAW worker, even if, let's say, you know, you've got different political beliefs than myself or Victor or a lot of you, I mean, it's one of those things where I'm sitting here and I'm thinking to myself, you guys, if you're, you know, I know none of you are smart. You see what's going on here. You see that your business is being forced into the EV market despite the fact that the demand is not there yet. They've got to invest through R&D billions of dollars into electric vehicles, right? I mean, they have to do it. The government's essentially forcing them to do it. And you guys see the writing on the wall. You see what's going on here. You've got to see what's going on. You'd be blind. So with that being said, you have to look at this, step back and say, okay, the government's forcing this on us, requiring our business to invest billions of dollars into this marketplace, even though it's not there yet, where the people don't necessarily want it. But we have to do it. We have no choice. It's being forced on us. That's billions of dollars the company's got to spend on that, whether we like it or not. And then inflation, to Victor's point, has been caused in large part by the people in charge right now. The people that the unions, like the UAW, oftentimes throw all their support and all their money behind. So the sympathy is lacking. 913-408-7710. 645. Welcome in on a Thursday morning on KCMO. We've got the Guns N' Roses tickets for Saturday night at Kauffman Stadium. We will do that just after 7 o'clock on KCMO Talk Radio. We do have an update as well on SNAP benefits. Speaking of increasing government costs, SNAP benefits are set to increase here in about 10 days. We'll tell you by how much and what that means next. We'll just tack this on, right, to inflation, chicken or the egg. SNAP benefits. We used to call those food stamps. Now we call them SNAP, Supplemental Nutrition Assistance. We give them these like cute, clever names that don't make people feel as bad about themselves, I guess. I don't know. So, getting a bump in benefits starting on October 1. SNAP, once again, used to be called the food stamp program. Because of inflation and cost of living, is going to increase by 12.5% for 12 months starting in October. 12.5. Now, listen, we are a wealthy country. We are a rich country. I want to make sure that people and families have food to eat. I'm not sitting here saying, you shouldn't be able to eat. You get a job. I think that these types of programs, whether it's unemployment, whether it is food stamps, we should have in this country. I think we should take care of those who find themselves down on their luck, who are struggling. Now, we've created, unfortunately, an environment of giving a man a fish instead of teaching a man to fish, right? If you give a man a fish, he eats for a day. If you teach a man to fish, he eats for a lifetime. We've gone too far down the road of just giving a man a fish, and that's a major problem, societally speaking. But I do believe these programs are valuable. We need them. I don't want kids going hungry in America. That should not be happening in a country this wealthy. So I agree with all of that. But the question is always, well, when is enough enough? And how much is enough? That's always the conversation. So now you're talking about a 12% increase in SNAP benefits starting in October. And I saw this article here, and it says below you can see the breakdowns of new maximum benefit amounts in the lower 48 states and D.C., according to the USDA. And it says here, for a household size of 1, you get $291. For a household size of 2, you get $535. Now, what's not clear to me, and I'm Googling this like crazy, is that per month or is that per year? I imagine it's got to be per month, because if you're a household of 2, you can't eat on $535 a year. But a month, that's a lot. I mean, if you can't, for 2 people, if you can't spend less than $500 a month in groceries, then you're doing it wrong. So it didn't make sense to me. And I've read all these articles on this, and everyone's got the same chart saying, household of 1 is $291 a month. Household of 2 is $535 a month. But I'm like, gosh, that's a lot of money if it is per month, and it doesn't sound like it's enough money if it's done per year.
You see, and so if you get it, you got to spend it. So you might as well get the lobster, right? That's kind of the way it works. They give it to you, right? You go ahead and max it out. There's no point leaving a balance.
No, it's not carrying over to the next month, as far as I know.
Right.
So household size of 3, $766 a month. If this is per month, which I imagine it is. I mean, somebody can text in or call in, because all the articles I'm reading are not making it clear. But this has got to be per month. Household of 3, $766 a month for SNAP benefits, food stamps. Household of 4, $973. That's got to be per month. And if so, I don't know about you, but I track, Kate and I, we try to track things like groceries each month. What do we spend? Things like that. Now, it is 4 of us. 2 of us plus Claire and Chloe. And we spend, I think we're probably around $1,000 a month in food, groceries, that's with everything, right? We're right around that number. And sometimes it seems like a lot, but, then I look in the pantry, I look in the fridge, and we go through it. We're not like hoarding food. It's just the cost of food has gone up a lot. So if that is $973 a month for a household of 4, that's a tremendous amount of money. I mean, I'm going to quit. I'm going to get out of here. I'm going to start living off food stamps. I mean, why am I working this hard? Why am I waking up at 4 a.m. if I can make the same amount of money to fund our grocery bill as I do working every day? You want to talk about a broken system. Thomas in Grain Valley, what's up, man?
Hey, thanks for taking my call. So I'm not saying that this is everyone who's on that program, but I have personally seen people who are on the SNAP or food stamps, whatever you want to call it. They have, because one is a family member, at the end of the month when their money's getting ready to roll over, because like you said, it's use it or lose it per month, they would call me up and say, hey, look, I've got this much money left on stamps. Would you be willing to just give me $40 and I'll buy you $100 in groceries? Because it's not their money. They don't care. But they just want the cash because, in my mom's case, she smokes cigarettes. That's not one of the things that's allowed to be purchased with food stamps. So they want the extra cash for other things, and they don't use all the money as it is anyways. So They're willing to just basically sell it off. And back when me and my wife first got together, she was working in a meat market. And I would see people come in. They were driving nice cars. They're using the EBT cards, food stamps. They're buying steak and lobster. And we're sitting here being, living off a hamburger helper.
Wow.
So
talk about a broken
I'm not a huge fan. Not a huge fan of them increasing it. I also think that there should be more regulations on it. If you're on any kind of government assistance, I think audits need to be done more stricter or something like that, because there's a lot of people taking huge advantage of these systems when they don't really need to be on them.
Wow. Thank you. Well, that is great information, Thomas. Thank you, man. So his mom wants to buy cigarettes, so she'll buy him $100 in groceries. He gives her $40 in cash. She gets the cash to go buy the cigarettes. Talk about a broken system. What if I told you about 85% of the current represented UAW workers with GM would earn a base salary of about $82,000 a year? Would you feel a little bit different about this UAW strike that, by the way, is now having local impacts here in Kansas City? I'm just wondering. 8:05, welcome in. Happy Thursday morning. So the strike now is impacting the Fairfax GM plant here on the Kansas side of the state line because one of the first striking plants was the Wentzville, Missouri plant. They feed supplies to the Fairfax GM plant here in town, and basically they've got no work now. So that's 2,000 employees at the Fairfax plant that are not working because of the UAW strike right here in the Kansas City area. So now it's having a major local impact. So yesterday, Mark Roos is the GM, or the president, I should say, of GM, and he wrote this article, this letter, I guess you would call it, in the Detroit Free Press. And, he shot down a lot of the myths that are out there, and I have yet to hear UAW President Shawn Fain push back on any of these facts that he laid out in the Detroit Free Press. So let's share those with you here. He writes here, UAW leadership claims GM pays its team members poverty wages. It's simply not true, he writes. In our current proposal, we're offering a 20% wage increase, including for temporary employees who make up only about 6 to 10% of the workforce. He writes here, that means about 85% of our current represented employees would earn a base wage of approximately $82,000 a year. He goes, in contrast, the average median household income in 9 areas where GM has a major assembly plant is $51,821. He said total compensation for the 85% of the workforce with overtime and benefits would be more than $150,000 a year. When you include overtime, benefits, plus the new contract. 85% of the workforce, all in, would be at more than $150,000 a year when you factor everything together. Yet the UAW is acting like, oh, woe is us, we're just fighting to get out of poverty here. Well, data's not backing that up. Numbers aren't backing that up, guys. In the 2019 contract, wages for hourly workers with less than 1 year of service earning $17 an hour had the potential to reach $32.32 an hour over the term of the contract. With our most recent proposal, some entry-level team members will get up to a maximum rate of $39.24 an hour. For some workers, a 141% increase. Then he goes on the note, this is the president of GM, Mark Roos, writing in the Detroit Free Press, this letter that came out yesterday. It says here, the fundamental reality is that the UAW's demands can be described in one word, untenable. He says, we want to ensure our company succeeds and, more importantly, wins for the next 100 years for the benefit of everyone. And that's the purpose of a business that has to be noted. The point is for it to have it work for everybody as best as you can. You can complain about the CEO's salary all you want, but it's mostly just a worthless talking point that's not based in reality. You have to be competitive. And right now, when the labor costs of the Detroit Big Three are already 20 to 30% higher than the other major automakers in the country, Honda, Kia, Tesla, just to name a few, You can't make yourself uncompetitive in the marketplace. That's bad business. That's how you end up with people getting laid off and businesses shutting their doors. So the president here for GM goes on the note, we already announced our intentions to add jobs in 2024. In our offer, we have work and products for every single one of our U.S. facilities. And he adds here, and this is important, because you've been hearing about the billions of dollars in profits. We just want a piece of the billions of dollars in profits. The record profits are being reinvested in our company and our people. In 2022, GM had a net income profit of $9.9 billion. In 2023, GM's capital spending will be up to $12 billion. Over the past 10 years, net income for General Motors totaled $65 billion. And the amount invested over that same period? $77 billion. And yes, that includes investments in their EV, electric vehicle future. That's how they have to do it, right? The government's forcing them to go down the EV route. Tesla owns the market. If you want to get a larger market share, it's going to cost you. I mean, you got to invest in R&D if you're a smart company, never mind if you're an automaker. You just have to do it. Yes, you're going to lose a lot of money off of it, but the hope is that, once again, you're sustained for the next 50 to 100 years. So all these, cute talking points of they're making billions and just trying to get a pay raise and these are poverty wages. Well, none of that's true. None of it. You got 85% of the workforce would earn a base wage of approximately $82,000 a year under the offer they've got on the table right now at GM, which is, 60% higher than the average median household income in the 9 areas where GM has a major assembly plant right now. On top of that, when you include overtime and benefits, the packages end up being about $150,000 a year. I mean, the stones on these people to scream, poverty wages is really insulting to working class people in this country who can't find a car for less than $30,000 that's halfway decent today. So this is not your father's unions. This is not a sympathetic group with the working class. It's just not. And, Sean Fain thinks that this is 1962. It's not, and he's not living in it. That's not what's going on right now in 2023. So he's got one lifeline really left because now you're seeing people laid off all over the country. But most notably, it's here in Fairfax at the GM plant on the Kansas side of the state line. 2,000 people now out of work going to have to go on unemployment because of this strike. Eventually, I got to believe that membership is going to be fed up. And they're going to say, hey, you got a 20% offer on the table? Take the damn offer. The days of pensions aren't coming back. I've at some point, that's going to happen, right? I believe. So now the question is, how does it end? Well, I'm thinking what's going to happen here is the government's going to get involved. The Biden administration, which bills itself as, we're fighting for the working man, the union guy, the blue collar, Scranton Joe, the whole thing, right?
What are we talking about?
I think that Scranton Joe is going to try to get involved here in some capacity and look like the hero. And it's going to be one sham. It's not going to be based in any type of reality. It's not going to be done in good faith. But he's going to get to look like the hero that solved the crisis between the UAW and the Detroit Big Three. What does that look like? I don't know. I don't know yet. But the government at some point, I believe, is going to be dragged into this whole thing. And maybe that's some kind of payoff. Maybe there's some government dollars involved here. I mean, it wouldn't shock me one bit. They gave, $36 billion to the Teamsters Union from the American Rescue Plan back in December of last year. Just do a quick Google search on that. The administration took $36 billion from the supposed American Rescue Plan that was about COVID and gave it to the Teamsters Union to bail out their pensions. So I don't know. I mean, there's trillions of dollars floating out there still from COVID. Nobody knows where any of the money is. Nothing would shock me at this point. Coming up, we'll get this. We'll continue this story, get the perspective of Austin Bannon, Americans for Prosperity, on the strike, how it ends. how everybody can save face, because now there's 2,000 people out of work here in the Kansas City area because of that. He'll join us next, 8:14 on a Thursday morning. Pete Mundo on KCMO. If you are getting your kids off to college, whether that's happening next year, if they're seniors, maybe you just did it here in the last few weeks. I don't know if you've seen this trend, but the Wall Street Journal had a huge piece on this week. And essentially what's going on is college students are renting moms. Now, don't be freaked out by it, but it is kind of weird. But hey, you got to love the free market, by the way. This is free market to a T. So here's what the Wall Street Journal writes in this piece that came out this week. Like any good mother, Mindy Horowitz helped Emma Fierstein move into her college dorm room, got her an internship, took her to lunch when she had a bad day. But these two are not related. Mindy Horowitz raised 3 boys of her own and was a social worker before launching a concierge service for college students living away from home. At $450 a year plus delivery fees, Horowitz, 53 years old, performs some of the same duties students would expect from their own mother. A young client phoned Horowitz on a recent night in a panic. He needed a sports coat for early the next morning. Target was the only store open, but nothing there fit his 6'3" frame. With Horowitz's help, the student walked into his presentation wearing a coat borrowed from one of her sons. Similar services have sprung up near college campuses around the U.S. The business grew more popular after the pandemic, made it difficult for many parents to reach their children at far-flung campuses. Among the tasks offered are medicine pickup and delivery, furniture assembly, rides to and from the airport, and accompanying college-age children to doctor's appointments. Horowitz expanded her business from Washington University over in St. Louis to Northwestern, Skidmore, and University of Hartford, hiring locals with a measure of maternal instinct. So she has now grown her business from Wash U in St. Louis to other colleges, and she's essentially hiring out other college moms. You know, we've got a problem already with, and I say this as a millennial, young people not growing up. Like already it seems like we are in a Peter Pan fantasy land where people act like kids till they're 35, 40, or they feel like it. We know that the number of 40-year-olds who have not been married and don't have children are at all-time highs. And now what we're doing is figuring out a model to baby kids even further while they're in college. Why you need somebody to hold your hand to go to a doctor's appointment as a grown adult, I don't understand. Why you need somebody to pick up your medicine as an 18 to 22-year-old, I don't understand. I'm all about the free market. I think it's great. You know, if you find a niche that works and there's a market for it, you got to make money. But my goodness, I mean, you're hearing this story, and I don't have college-age kids, as you know. I'm just trying to not lose my ring under my own bed from a 2-year-old, so I'm in a different place in life right now. But I was reading the story, and I'm like, there's got to be somebody or somebodies in this audience who has either heard of this, and I know if you're utilizing this, you may not want to admit it, but I can promise you we will keep your identity anonymous. You can give us a fake name at 913-408-7710. I just want somebody, or on the text line, to admit that they're using this. And if there isn't one, that's okay too, because that means and confirms what I know, that we've got the best audience in Kansas City. But you want to talk about babying kids. This is the definition of it. And by the way, the article goes on to note in the Wall Street Journal that concierge services for students based in Boston charge $10,000 a month in some cases for the academic year. And individuals will accept no more than 30 clients. That's $300,000. And by the way, you get summers off. That's a pretty good deal. It's like being a teacher, except you're making 6 times as much money. That is unbelievable. So the story goes on to note that Tammy Kuman started the business with her partner 30 years ago, largely to serve foreign students at boarding schools in the Boston area. This year, 75% of her clients are college kids, including at Northeastern, Harvard, and Suffolk universities. Before the school year starts, the company shops for items to outfit a student's dorm room, all in their preferred color scheme. It wasn't all that long ago. I remember moving into my dorm room and being like, gosh, I guess I got to find a wrinkly poster to put up in here with the, sticky tape on the other side. Now it's like, oh, let's make sure little Johnny's got his preferred color scheme in his dorm room.
Need some earth tones. Yeah. Things like some neutral stuff.
What is college anymore? Is it a 4-year vacation to get drunk? Or is it like, and by the way, come out with a degree that oftentimes is useless while also putting yourself into tens of thousands of dollars in debt? Or is it supposed to be a place that, yes, you learn a lot about yourself. Yes, you socialize. I'm not trying to take away the party atmosphere from college here. I don't want to be, the Grinch or anything like that. But what is it about? Because all I can tell here is that people are now hiring out what they're calling college moms to watch over their kids, make sure their color schemes are proper in the dorm room, and then also take them to doctor's appointments like they're 6-year-olds. I mean, this is a continuing disturbing trend of where we're at societally speaking. I don't blame the people that are making money off it. I genuinely don't. If there are people that want to pay you $10,000 to watch over their, man-child, then you know what? Take the $10,000 and run. But none of this bodes well for the future of the country, because the whole point of college was you'd start to learn how to be on your own, right? All right, you're out of mom and dad's purview. You're on your own. You're living your life. But now you sit here and you're like, no, you got, your other mommy, right? Just call mommy up. Ask her if you need anything from the doctor's office or the food store, or you can get a ride to the airport. I mean, jeez, what are we doing? I can tell you this right now. I mean, I'm how many years? 13, 14 years away? I guess, 12, 13. My goodness, it's moving. From sending kids to college, there will be no college moms hired in this household. Mark's even closer, by the way. Mark's only a few years, several years away from sending someone to college. Mark, you going to start saving up for the college mom for your oldest? Is this going to be part of the budget that you and the wife put together for the kids?
No, we're not doing that.
No plans. All right.
No way.
All right, good for you. I'm happy to hear that. You can continue working on the show. On the text line, 913-408-7710. Pete, I think I'll start a new Kansas City business, but call it Who's Your Daddy? Oh, I see what you did there. Oh, gosh. Pete, what can we say? The uber wealthy are different, not in a good way. Well, I don't see. Here's the thing. Do you have to be rich to do this? Or do you just have to know how to spend money foolishly? Like, I don't know. How many people are taking out loans to make sure their little boy or little girl is being taken care of by their college mom? I'm sure it leans towards the uber wealthy, but I don't think it has to be necessarily. It could be anybody. So it was like, it's this 2,000-word piece in the Wall Street Journal this week, and I'm like, goodness, what is college turning into? It's disturbing to say the least. It's not the most disturbing story of the day. That would be how much we're now getting in paying in SNAP benefits. That's going to be bumping up October 1st. So a household of 4 is going to be getting $973 for food stamps, according to the USDA, starting October 1. If you're a household of 4, $973 for food. Like, I'm all about helping out people in need, having a safety net in the wealthiest country in the history of mankind. But I track our groceries, and I'm pretty sure $973 would do plenty, plus some, for our household of 4. If you're driving to the office today and you're a household of 4 and you're thinking to yourself, gosh, another grind of a day, got your coffee there, you're trying to get fired up for the day at work, why do you bother? You know what? Hang out on food stamps and you get $973 a month starting October 1st from the government to feed your family. That's a heck of a deal. Family of 5, $1,155 a month. after the SNAP benefits are set to increase 12.5% starting October 1.
I got a question for you.
Sure.
My wife, does she count as 2? Because she got one growing.
Oh, yeah.
Do we get 5 in our family? She's eating for 2 now, right?
No, especially since Democrats are in charge of the government. I mean, they don't count unborn children, obviously. They're worthless to them. So, no, that doesn't count there, Mark. So now you're a household of 4. So you could get $973 for groceries if you only just became a government leech. What a world, man. You want to talk about what's wrong today? That's it right there. Help out, sure. Fund, then some? The scam of all scams. The only saving grace is that starting this month, childless workers under 50 are required to show they were working 80 hours or more a month, pursuing an education or a training program. But other than that, I mean, it's a free-for-all, and it's not good. Now, speaking of things not good, I have found the most cringe moment on TV, I would say, of the last several weeks. This was bad. We'll get it to you. I've got it. We've got the audio of it, and we'll share it coming up next. All right, do me a favor. Do not allow this segment to be heard by your pet's sensitive ears. That's my public service announcement before I go any further here at 8:50 on a Thursday morning. So for the 10 people that still watch The View, there was an absurd moment yesterday that has gone viral that I wanted to make sure I shared with you here because I suffered the pain of this, so that means you must suffer it with me because we're in this together, right? So these 2 artists, I don't know one of them, but I know the other one, Natasha Bedingfield. She had some hits probably, 20 years ago now, 15, 20 years ago at this point.
Yeah, getting close to 25, I think.
Yeah, that's going back. And the other one here is Milk, M-I-L-C-K. I don't know if she goes by Milk. I have no idea. That's the name of the artist. It's all caps, M-I-L-C-K. So she either goes by M-I-L-C-K or Milk. Either way. So these ladies, Natasha Bedingfield and Milk, put out this song. And the song is called Your Child, My Child. And it's intended to bring awareness to gun violence and mental health issues in America. Because obviously, these wokesters would never let anybody forget about gun deaths, right? So this song is called Enough. And please just join me. And please make sure your pets are away from the radio, away from the Alexa, away from the Google Home if you're in the house. And you listen to this. I'm giving you forewarning on this. I'm being fair. I'm being reasonable. And here we go.
I know that things will change when enough of us will say enough, enough, enough. Oh yeah, hey, enough, enough, enough. Oh yeah.
All right, Mark, that's enough. Stop! Enough! Oh my, no, just to pull it, just stop the whole dumb song. Please, I can't take it anymore. I can't. Natasha Bedingfield and Milk, their hit song.
We had enough after about 30 seconds.
Enough. I mean, this is enough of enough. I've heard enough of enough. I mean, this is the kind of stuff that The View's putting on TV. It sounds like drunk chicks, at the dive bar down the street. That's what it sounds like, trying out for American Idol or something like that. I mean, what? Oh, my goodness. Boy, watch out, Oliver Anthony. He's going to have that number 1 song kicked off the charts in no time.
Milk was a bad choice.
Oh, jeez, just make it end. Oh, now I'm all here for it because I saw the song yesterday on social media and it was going viral. And I'm like, oh, my goodness, we are going to have some fun with this on Thursday morning. But I had like a minute 16 pulled of the song, and we just got through 25 seconds. I couldn't do it anymore because I knew some of you were about to, risk it all off the side of a bridge or something like that. So I didn't want to do that to you anymore. So I said, I'm moving on. All right. We're cutting it off. But just know that that's the kind of content that you're missing out on when it comes to The View. The 329.999 million people in this country of the 330 million who are not watching the TV show, that's the kind of stuff you're missing out on.
Well, and like Eminem a couple of weeks ago with Ramaswamy rapping.
Yes.
Natasha Bedingfield suddenly appears out of nowhere.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
All these 90s people going, oh, hey,
don't forget
I'm
about
still
me.
Here.
I'm around. I'm trying to sing music still. I'll show you how woke I am. Oh, gosh. Unbelievable. Okay. Now that we know the woke women are here, they're trying even harder. Speaking of woke, did you see Howard Stern? The headline here from Howard Stern on his radio show. Geez, Howard Stern 30 years ago would hate what he's become. Howard Stern bragged on his radio show this week that he is woke, or excuse me, let me get the quote right. Howard Stern headline, quote, I'm a woke MFer and I love it. Okay, Howard, you are a woke, in his words, a woke MFer and he loves it. You think Howard Stern cries himself to sleep at night? I feel like Howard Stern is kind of at the point where he knows the stuff he was doing in his heyday that made him hundreds of millions of dollars and made him famous would get him canceled today. So he's trying so hard to make sure that if cancel culture ever comes for him, he'll be protected by screaming at, from the hilltops, I'm a woke, bleeper. I'm woke. Don't worry, everybody. I mean, who says that? Even the people who are woke don't announce that they're woke. They just are woke. Like they're like Natasha Bedingfield. They put out these awful songs and, then they go on The View and they sing their songs. And you know that they're woke, but they don't announce that they're woke. Howard Stern is trying so hard, and this is, not what made Howard Stern Howard Stern. He didn't try to appease the man. He was against the man. And now he is everything that he rebelled against that made him, I don't know if he's a billionaire, but he's certainly worth hundreds of millions of dollars, John.
He's like Ty Burrell's character on Modern Family. He's Phil Dunphy. That's all. Trying way too hard. I have a theory. I call it parenting. I know all the lingo, LOL, laugh out loud, WTF, why the face?
Well, he also bragged about how he just left his house recently, and the only reason he left his house was because he had to get like his 5th booster shot. So that's what Howard Stern has become. It's really sad is what it is, because I picture him legitimately crying himself to sleep every single night and hating himself. And that's sad because there's no reason for Howard to hate himself. You think about guys like Joe Rogan and some of those folks who have taken the mantle away from Howard Stern, and it is well-deserved. That mantle is long gone. And the king of media, he's the king of woke, apparently, and that's about it these days. I mean, you guys know I support law enforcement more than any media outlet in this community, right? I mean, you listen to this show for any point in the last 5.5 years, you know that. But I don't like when law enforcement sound like government employees and bureaucrats, especially with the crisis that is unfolding here in Kansas City right now. I don't care for it. Now, what am I referring to here? Well, Tony's Kansas City had this because Tony's always on top of things. By now, you know that Kansas City is obviously heading towards what could be a record year for homicides, right? I mean, it's terrible to say this, but here we are, year to date, with 141 homicides, January 1 through September 20. Last year, we had 119, so we're 18% higher than last year at this point in time. And we're only a couple of homicides behind where we were in 2020, which was a record year with 179 total homicides. In that year, 2020, year to date, Jan 1 through September 20, there were 144. We are at 141 right now. So, Tony's Kansas City shares this piece that comes from Northeast News. And it's talking about Police Chief Stacey Graves, community outreach, policing going forward, how it should look, everything else, right? And here's the quote that Tony's Kansas City highlights. And this is from Stacey Graves, the police chief. It says here, when it comes to policing going forward, that means pulling in all kinds of resources to assist in the whole bigger picture of violent crime, its root causes, and our approaches to it. She says, coming into the summer, we started to look at a lot internally as far as our approach to violent crime. We anticipate a written violent crime plan to come out at the beginning of the year. The beginning of the year is kind of going to be a reset. The beginning of the year is going to be a reset with a written violent crime plan. Now, there's no doubt in my mind that Stacey Graves wants to do right, as, you know, her predecessor Rick Smith did. Anyone who's in law enforcement for decades wants to save lives, keep people alive. They want to do right by their communities, especially the people in this town. Maybe there's some people that don't, but the people in this town want to do that. But when you give me a quote of, don't worry, we got a written plan coming out for January, it's like, that's bureaucracy speak 101. We got 3.5 months left in the year. I mean, what is magically going to be implemented on January 1st, which all it is a made-up date to start a new year, that can't be implemented today? I don't understand that. That's political speak to me. There's no better time than right now. If there's some incredible plan that can be implemented today to reduce homicides in Kansas City, why would you wait 3 months and 10 days to do it? I mean, the fiscal year is not starting Jan 1. It's just a calendar year. It's literally just a day on the calendar. There's no rhyme or reason to wait till January 1st to do this. There isn't. By the way, for all you people who are going to be murdered between now and next year, just try to hang tight if you can, you know? I mean, yeah, we're going to get through the next 3 months and 11 days best we can, but don't worry, we're going to start being tough on crime next year. Like that quote is just like, what? Okay, January 1's the magic day. I don't get it. I don't understand where that kind of, it just sounds like something coming out of City Hall. Sounds like something coming out of a bureaucracy. If there's a grand idea to stop homicides today, why can't we start it tomorrow or next week? And if there's a reason we can't start it till January 1, this magically made up date, then there better be a damn good reason for it, because in the meantime, people are getting, picked off left and right. So I am going to support this police department more than anybody else in town in media. That's not even a question. But if they're going to go down political speak road, I'm at least going to point it out. I'm still going to support them. Still going to be 100% behind them. I'm still going to throw all my weight I can behind supporting the men and women in law enforcement in this town. But I'm still going to question the game plan there when I see bureaucratic speak like that. 913-408-7710. That's how you join us on KCMO Talk Radio, 710 AM and 103.7 FM. Now, on the text line, Pete, you got to get a regular feature with the media unit of KCPD. Then you can have Stacey Graves come on. She's been on the show, and I'd love to have her on the show as much as she wants. I feel, and this is my opinion, not to air any dirty laundry, but I feel like at times KCPD has kept me at an arm's length under new leadership, because they perceive any relationship with me and this show to not appease the wokesters, which they are trying to do. They're trying to walk the fine line, which is impossible, by the way, of appeasing the air quotes activists, a.k.a. the wokesters, while also the rest of us who are just normal citizens who, support cops, who like to see cops, who appreciate cops and things like that. And if the appearance is that they're too cozy with this show, then the wokesters will freak out, just like they did when Rick Smith would come on this show. So that's just my perception. I mean, I've tried to do a Back the Blue tour with them, and it got canceled. and it wasn't because of me. So we're taking that thing around town, and I'd love to do it with KCPD. I'm going to be honest with you, the audience, before anybody else. And that's what matters here first and foremost, this audience, you listening right now. So, I mean, I love KCPD. I know a lot of folks up and down the ranks. But, you know, I just been the feeling here on the show on how they perceive that relationship. But don't kid yourself. There's going to be something that happens in town where the entire media establishment is going to try to drag them through the mud. Unfairly, I will add. And there's going to be one place that's going to show support, and that's going to be this place and this show and this radio station. So I do hope that is remembered when that time comes. Not if, when. It's not a matter of if. It's a matter of when. I mean, trust me, the Kansas City Star will, the moment they can drag the entire department through the mud, they're going to do it. They're going to jump all over it. Not if, but when. I promise you that's going to happen.